Alright, this week's project is going to be pretty quick. Just helping the baseball team out with a base transport cart. So Mr. Miner brought me over this Harbor Freight hand truck and showed me a quick picture of what he wanted. I told him no problem, let's bust it out.
That's $299 plus shipping if you buy it out of a baseball cap.
$299 for a $30 Harbor Freight hand truck. And I'm guessing maybe, I don't know, $30 a tube. So 60 bucks, $2.99. Yeah, they're making some good money. All right, dollar saved. All right, so I start off with some 2x2 tube, and I want to make sure the bottom sits flush with the bottom part of the dolly. So I'm going to mark a straight parallel line with that. Instead of just making a parallel line, you could also measure up the distance and then make that same measure over and to the corner, just like that. The top of this, I didn't want to have just a straight finish to it. I wanted to have a kind of a closed off 45 half miter look. So I measured to the top of the tube and I connect a 45-degree line across that top mark. We're going to measure up that hypotenuse. You could do a squared plus b squared equals c squared, or you can just, since you have a ruler, measure how long it is and then transfer that same distance up from the bottom of the 45-degree mark and to right there. And after we use our hand grinder, we're going to notch out and fold down that piece so now it covers up the opening. We'll weld around it and make it look nice and finished. So I've already cut this down to the overall height, and I'm just showing you how I followed that line nice and close, and I'm going to continue to notch this out, and we'll then proceed to fold over the tongue that we leave over. Now with that notch complete, I'm just cleaning up the tongue that's left behind. That was going to get folded down, and in order to get a nice tight fit, you kind of need to notch it like we've notched before. If you remember when we did the dustpan project, I had to notch those corners to get a nice tight bend, and that's what we're going to do here. So now we're just folding over the tube and getting it nice and tight, pound it down, wedge it down there to get a good tight fit, tack all the corners up, we're done. As I was prepping the top for a better joint to weld in, I noticed that it wasn't quite square. So as I was sanding this down to get it level, it kind of opened up a little bit, but we'll fix that here in a second, and it makes it turn out looking a lot nicer in the end when you square that up. Not every weld joint needs to have a trigger hammered down the entire way to make it solid. Sometimes you do, sometimes you don't. This material is thin enough that pulsing the trigger like I was doing will get a solid weld, and since we're sanding it mostly down too, it's perfect. Contrast, you can go kind of a downhill quick drag and you'll get a nice good looking bead as well, and nice and smooth, great penetration, great contour, but we're going to sand it all down and make it look pretty anyways. Here's what the overall tube looks like mocked up on the cart right now. I think it looks pretty good. I had this wild hair where I wanted these tubes shooting off the main tube on a 45 degree, and so I kind of made a custom little template that would help offshoot this at the compound angle that I was trying to accomplish. I actually love the way this turned out and like how well it actually worked. I think I can use this on a lot of future projects. I've never tried to do a compound mitered angle with squared tube before, so it was a good learning experience. I took the paint off so we get a good solid weld on there without getting a bunch of porosity. And as we get this thing tacked in nice and square, and I start putting on my 45-degree offshoots, that's when I start to realize that maybe my clearance and what I was thinking might not work, and unfortunately it didn't.
Oh, there's a change of plans. Sometimes things happen, and we'll explain the updates in a minute, okay? Be right back. All right, so with Mr. Miner's help, I have fixed the problem, and he guided me on how to fix it. So originally we were gonna try and do this weird little notchy-do thing, right? And they were gonna all come off at an angle. So this notch, remember we were gonna try and do it at 45, and it didn't work. They kept hitting each other. So we progressively went straight out, a little bit more in. You can see I didn't bother trying to fill those notches, but welding right there will fill it up enough. But then down here, I did these ones freehand. And that's a money shot. Look at that. So there you go. There's your little baseball tree. And now all the baseball kids can carry their bags. All their baggage. Tons of it. 6 bags.
Yeah, I think one of the main issues I had is when I initially made my CAD template to do my compound miter, I had to do it at a 45-degree up. And I really wanted to do a shallower one at that point, but I couldn't figure it out in the short period of time with my CAD system. So I just hurried up and did it at a 45-degree miter, and I realized that it didn't give us the clearance that we needed for all those bags to get on and off without hitting each other. So the 20-degree angle worked much better.
Oh, there he is. I think we're done.